Jake was a young man with a heart full of dreams and hands stained with paint. Growing up in a small, modest neighborhood, he had always found solace in his art. His canvases told stories of struggle, hope, and resilience, reflecting not only his own journey but also the vibrant lives of the people around him. Jake believed his work had meaning, a voice waiting to be heard in the world of fine art. However, the road to recognition had been anything but smooth. Every gallery he approached turned him away with polite smiles or cold dismissals. Despite his talent, Jake was often told his art didn't fit the market or lacked the refinement buyers sought. Yet, he refused to give up, clinging to the hope that one day, someone would see the value in his creations. One afternoon, Jake decided to take a bold step. He packed his best pieces, a collection of deeply personal works depicting the struggles and triumphs of his community, and headed to the most prestigious gallery in town, Leonard's Art Emporium. It was a place known for hosting high-profile exhibitions and catering to the wealthy elite. Jake hoped that if he could impress the gallery's owner, Mr. Leonard, his career would finally take off. Walking into the grand building, Jake felt a mix of awe and nerves. The gallery walls were adorned with opulent pieces, each framed with gold and priced higher than Jake had ever imagined. Clutching his portfolio, he approached the front desk and asked to meet Mr. Leonard. After a long wait, Jake was finally ushered into Mr. Leonard's office. The man was in his late 50s, with a sharp suit and an air of superiority. His piercing gaze swept over Jake, sizing him up before he even spoke. Jake introduced himself, explaining his passion for art and the stories behind his work. He opened his portfolio, revealing his paintings, each vibrant and filled with emotion. Mr. Leonard studied the pieces with a thinly veiled look of disdain. After a long silence, he leaned back in his chair and smirked. "This is what you brought me," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "It's amateur at best. The colors are loud, the composition lacks finesse, and frankly, it's uninspired." Jake's heart sank. He tried to explain the meaning behind his work, but Mr. Leonard interrupted him with a dismissive wave. "Listen, kid," he said, standing up. "Art is about more than just emotions. It's about precision, appeal, and fitting into the right circles. This isn't going to sell. Maybe try the community center down the street." The words cut deep, but Jake refused to let his disappointment show. He gathered his portfolio and stood tall, meeting Mr. Leonard's gaze. "Thank you for your time," Jake said quietly, before walking out of the office. As he stepped into the street, a mixture of humiliation and determination coursed through him. He glanced at his paintings, the colors vivid even in the afternoon sun. Mr. Leonard's words replayed in his mind, but instead of breaking him, they ignited a fire within. "I'll prove him wrong," Jake thought. "One day, he'll regret ever doubting me." With renewed resolve, Jake set off, determined to turn rejection into a stepping stone for his success. Jake sat in his small, cluttered studio, staring at the paintings scattered around him. Mr. Leonard's harsh words echoed in his mind, but they couldn't drown out the stubborn voice inside him urging him to keep going. As he brooded, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Laura, his best friend and an aspiring writer who shared his artistic dreams. "You can't let one rejection define you," Laura said when Jake answered her video call. "I know how talented you are, Jake. The world just hasn't seen it yet. But that's going to change." Jake sighed. "It's not that simple, Laura. These galleries only care about money, not art." "Then skip the galleries," Laura said with a grin. "Show your work directly to the people. Start posting online. And there's that art festival next month, the one at the park downtown. You should sign up." Jake hesitated. He wasn't a fan of social media, and the thought of putting his work out there for strangers to judge was intimidating. But Laura was persistent, and he knew she was right. If he didn't take a chance, he'd never know what could have been. Over the next few weeks, Jake threw himself into his work with newfound determination. He painted with raw emotion, channeling his frustrations, hopes, and dreams onto the canvas. Each piece told a story: a young boy dreaming of freedom, a single mother's tireless fight for her family, a community bound together by love and resilience. These were stories Jake knew intimately, and they poured out of him like a flood. Laura helped Jake set up an online art account, posting pictures of his paintings along with captions that shared the stories behind them. At first, the posts garnered little attention, but slowly, likes and comments began to trickle in. Encouraged, Jake continued to share his work while preparing for the local art festival. When the day of the festival arrived, Jake felt a mix of nerves and excitement. He set up his booth with care, arranging his paintings in a way that highlighted their emotional depth. The festival was buzzing with activity: families strolled through the park, artists displayed their crafts, and musicians performed under the shade of old oak trees. As the hours passed, Jake noticed a growing number of people stopping to admire his work. Some asked questions, while others purchased smaller prints. It was a small but significant victory. Later in the afternoon, a woman in her late 40s approached Jake's booth. She was elegant and poised, with sharp eyes that seemed to take in every detail. Jake didn't recognize her, but he could tell she was someone important. The woman introduced herself as Ms. Evelyn Grace, a renowned art critic and writer for a prestigious art magazine. She studied Jake's paintings in silence, her expression thoughtful. Finally, she turned to him with a smile. "Your work is extraordinary," she said. "It's raw, authentic, and deeply moving. This is the kind of art the world needs to see." Jake was stunned. "Thank you," he managed to say. "That means a lot, coming from someone like you." Ms. Grace nodded. "I'd like to feature your work in my column. Do you have an online portfolio I can share?" Jake quickly gave her the details of his online account, trying to hide his excitement. True to her word, Ms. Grace published a glowing review of Jake's art the following week. The article went viral, bringing a flood of attention to Jake's online presence. Collectors, buyers, and art enthusiasts began reaching out, eager to own a piece of his work. For the first time in his life, Jake felt like his dreams were within reach. The turning point he had been waiting for had finally arrived, and he was ready to seize it. Jake's world transformed almost overnight. Orders for his paintings poured in through his online store, and the demand kept growing. For the first time, he found himself selling his pieces for significant sums, amounts that had once seemed unimaginable. The financial stability allowed him to rent a larger studio and purchase better supplies, giving him the freedom to fully immerse himself in his art. His unique style, a mix of vibrant colors and emotionally charged storytelling, resonated with people from all walks of life. Each painting seemed to tell a story that viewers could connect with on a deeply personal level. As Jake's reputation grew, he started receiving invitations to showcase his work at prominent art shows and events. One day, Jake received a call from a man named Mr. Carter, a well-known art dealer with an impeccable reputation in the industry. Mr. Carter had seen Jake's work in Ms. Evelyn Grace's column and was eager to collaborate. "Your art speaks to the soul, Jake," Mr. Carter said during their first meeting. "I'd like to host a private exhibition featuring your work. This is your chance to show the world what you're capable of." The idea of his own exhibition left Jake both excited and nervous. He spent weeks preparing, creating new pieces that captured the essence of his journey, from struggle to triumph. The exhibition was held in an upscale gallery, and the turnout was overwhelming. Collectors, critics, and art lovers flocked to see Jake's creations, each one captivated by his work's raw emotion and authenticity. The success of the exhibition solidified Jake's name in the art world. His paintings were sold for record-breaking prices, and he was featured in multiple art publications and interviews. His story, of rising from rejection to become a celebrated artist, became an inspiration to many. Amid his growing success, Jake couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. One day, as he scrolled through news articles about the art world, he stumbled upon a piece about Leonard's Art Emporium, the very gallery where he had faced his harshest rejection. The article revealed that the gallery was struggling financially. Mr. Leonard, once a prominent figure in the art scene, was now facing declining interest in his exhibitions. The piece cited a lack of innovation and an outdated approach to art as the main reasons for the gallery's downfall. Jake couldn't deny the sense of poetic justice he felt. The man who had once mocked his work as uninspired was now losing relevance in a world that had embraced Jake's authenticity and emotional depth. Though Jake didn't revel in Mr. Leonard's misfortune, the irony was not lost on him. It was a reminder of how quickly fortunes could change, and how important it was to believe in oneself, even when others didn't. As Jake continued to rise in the art world, he held on to the lessons he had learned from his journey. His success wasn't just about proving Mr. Leonard wrong, it was about honoring his passion, his community, and the stories that had shaped him. And he knew this was just the beginning. Jake's success continued to soar, and his name became synonymous with authenticity and emotion in the art world. As his influence grew, so did the opportunities that came his way. Investors and art enthusiasts approached him with offers to fund new ventures. Among them was an idea that excited Jake, opening his own art gallery. The concept wasn't just about showcasing his work. Jake envisioned a space dedicated to uplifting underrepresented artists. It would be a gallery that gave a platform to those who, like him, had been dismissed or overlooked by the traditional art establishment. While researching potential locations, Jake stumbled upon surprising news: Leonard's Art Emporium was up for sale. The once renowned gallery was now bankrupt, unable to keep up with the evolving art scene. Jake's mind immediately went back to the day he had walked into that gallery with hope, only to be mocked and dismissed by its owner, Mr. Leonard. Jake saw an opportunity, a chance not only to expand his vision but also to turn the tables on the man who had rejected him. He decided to buy Leonard's gallery, seeing it as poetic justice. However, Jake chose to keep his identity a secret during the negotiations. He wanted the satisfaction of revealing himself only after the deal was finalized. With the help of his investors and legal team, Jake began the process of purchasing the gallery. The negotiations were swift, as Mr. Leonard was eager to sell. Years of financial mismanagement and dwindling interest had left the gallery in shambles, and Mr. Leonard was desperate to offload the burden. Throughout the process, Jake's representatives kept his identity hidden. They negotiated through intermediaries, ensuring that Mr. Leonard had no clue who the buyer was. Despite the secrecy, Jake couldn't resist visiting the gallery under the guise of a potential investor. Walking through its once grand halls, now empty and lifeless, he felt a mix of nostalgia and resolve. The day the sale was finalized, Jake's team informed him that the gallery was now his. Jake decided to wait until the official handover meeting to reveal his identity to Mr. Leonard. He couldn't deny the anticipation he felt. Finally, he would face the man who had once dismissed his dreams and show him how far he had come. The purchase of Leonard's Art Emporium marked a turning point in Jake's journey. What had once been a place of rejection was now a symbol of his triumph. But Jake wasn't content to stop there. He was determined to transform the space into a beacon of hope and opportunity for artists like himself. As the plans for the gallery's renovation began, Jake prepared for the moment he would unveil his identity to Mr. Leonard. He knew it wouldn't just be a victory for him but a powerful statement about resilience and the power of believing in one's dreams. The day of the official handover arrived, and Mr. Leonard was eager to meet the anonymous buyer. Despite his financial struggles, he hoped that whoever had purchased his gallery would preserve its legacy. Dressed sharply, Leonard prepared himself for the meeting, expecting a wealthy investor or perhaps an established art dealer. Jake, on the other hand, was calm but determined. He had waited years for this moment, not out of vengeance, but as a way to reclaim his dignity and remind Mr. Leonard of the lesson he had once ignored. Accompanied by his legal team, Jake entered the gallery's conference room where Mr. Leonard was waiting. When Leonard saw Jake, his confident demeanor faltered. For a moment, he didn't recognize the man who had walked into his office years ago. Then realization dawned, and his face paled. "You," Leonard stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're the buyer?" Jake gave him a calm but piercing look. "Yes, Mr. Leonard. I'm the buyer." Leonard quickly composed himself, switching to a more ingratiating tone. "Jake, my boy. Look at you, successful, accomplished. I always knew you had potential. I must say, I've been following your career, and I'm very impressed. Jake raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by Leonard's sudden change in attitude. Really? That's interesting, considering you once called my work amateur and uninspired. I believe your exact words were to try the community center down the street. Leonard's face flushed. He opened his mouth to speak, but found no words to justify himself. Jake continued, his voice steady but firm. I came here years ago with nothing but hope and a dream, and you humiliated me. You dismissed my art because it didn't fit your narrow idea of what was marketable. But I didn't let your opinion define me. I kept working, and now I'm here, not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who knows his worth. Leonard's shoulders sagged, realizing there was no way to spin the situation in his favor. Jake, I made a mistake. I see that now. Your work is remarkable, truly. If I had known back then. Jake held up a hand, silencing him. It's not about what you could have done, Mr. Leonard. It's about what I will do. I purchased this gallery, but not to preserve what it was. I'm transforming it into something better, a space where young, underrepresented artists can find the support and encouragement they deserve. No one will walk through these doors and feel the way you made me feel. Leonard stared at Jake, a mix of regret and defeat in his eyes. He knew there was nothing he could say to change the past or undo the consequences of his actions. Jake signed the final documents, officially taking ownership of the gallery. As he stood in the same building where he had once been humiliated, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not because he had bested Leonard, but because he had reclaimed his narrative. Before leaving, Jake turned to Leonard one last time. If you truly want to make amends, reflect on how many people you may have discouraged like you did to me. Learn from it. That's all I ask. With that, Jake left the room, ready to begin a new chapter. He announced his plans to renovate the gallery and rename it the Canvas of Voices, dedicated to showcasing the talents of emerging artists from all walks of life. The news spread quickly, and the art world buzzed with excitement about Jake's vision. The unveiling marked not only Jake's triumph over rejection, but also his commitment to creating a more inclusive and supportive space for the next generation of artists. The transformation of the gallery was nothing short of revolutionary. Jake poured his heart into every detail, ensuring the space reflected his vision of inclusivity and empowerment. What was once a cold, elitist venue now exuded warmth and creativity. He named the gallery the Canvas of Voices to symbolize its purpose, giving underrepresented artists a platform to share their stories with the world. Jake worked tirelessly, reaching out to emerging artists from all backgrounds. Many of them, like Jake, had faced rejection and were searching for an opportunity to showcase their talent. The gallery's walls soon filled with vibrant, diverse pieces, each one unique and full of meaning. From abstract paintings to sculptures, every corner of the space told a story. To ensure the gallery made a powerful first impression, Jake planned an opening event that would draw the art world's attention. Invitations were sent to celebrities, critics, collectors, and art lovers. The anticipation grew as word spread about the gallery's mission and Jake's inspiring journey. On the night of the opening, the gallery came alive. The space was filled with the hum of conversations and the soft melodies of a live jazz band. Guests marveled at the artwork, praising the creativity and depth of the pieces on display. At the heart of the gallery was a collection of Jake's own work, a retrospective of his journey from rejection to triumph. Among the attendees were familiar faces, including Ms. Evelyn Grace, the critic who had been one of Jake's earliest supporters. She beamed with pride as she watched Jake's vision come to life. "Jake," she said, raising her glass in a toast, "you've created something truly extraordinary. This gallery isn't just a space, it's a movement." Jake smiled, humbled by her words. For him, the gallery wasn't just about showcasing art, it was about building a community where artists could thrive and be celebrated for their individuality. The event reached its peak when Jake took the stage to deliver a heartfelt speech. "This gallery is more than a building," Jake began, his voice steady but emotional. It's a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of believing in yourself, even when others don't. The canvas of voices is for every artist who has ever been told they don't belong. Here, your stories matter, your voices matter, and your art will always have a home. The crowd erupted into applause, moved by Jake's words and the passion behind his mission. Critics praised the gallery as a groundbreaking addition to the art world, and celebrities took to social media to share their admiration for Jake's vision. Within weeks, the Canvas of Voices became a cultural hotspot, attracting visitors from around the globe. The gallery's success not only solidified Jake's reputation as a trailblazer but also paved the way for countless artists to find their place in the spotlight. For Jake, the gallery was more than a professional accomplishment, it was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of art to bring people together. As he stood in the bustling gallery, watching artists and art lovers connect, he felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. This was the future he had dreamed of, and it was only just beginning. The months following the opening of the Canvas of Voices were filled with success and growth. The gallery thrived, not just as a business but as a community space where artists and art lovers gathered to celebrate creativity and diversity. Jake had built something truly special, a legacy that extended far beyond himself. In an unexpected twist of fate, Mr. Leonard, the once powerful gallery owner, now worked at the Canvas of Voices as an assistant curator. With his own gallery lost to bankruptcy and no other prospects, Leonard had approached Jake, seeking employment. Many would have turned him away, but Jake, understanding the value of second chances, hired him. At first, Leonard struggled to adjust to his new role. Gone were the days of commanding respect with his title and reputation. Now, he worked under the very artist he had once humiliated. Each day, as he walked through the transformed gallery, Leonard couldn't help but reflect on his arrogance and the opportunities he had squandered. One afternoon, Leonard approached Jake as he reviewed submissions from young artists. "Jake," he said hesitantly, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong to judge your work, or anyone's work, for that matter. I let my ego blind me to what truly matters in art." Jake looked up, surprised by the sincerity in Leonard's voice. "It's not about the apology," Jake replied. "It's about what you do with what you've learned. If you truly want to make amends, help me build this place into a sanctuary for artists who need it." Leonard nodded, his expression one of humility. "I'll do my best." True to his word, Leonard became an active contributor to the gallery's mission. Working alongside Jake, he witnessed the impact the gallery had on emerging artists and the art world as a whole. Over time, Leonard learned to appreciate the diversity and authenticity of the work around him, something he had once dismissed. Meanwhile, Jake embraced his role as a mentor. He hosted workshops, shared his journey with aspiring artists, and offered guidance to those navigating the challenges of the industry. His story of rejection and resilience inspired countless individuals, reminding them that success was possible even in the face of adversity. One evening, after a particularly successful exhibition featuring a group of young artists, Jake stood outside the gallery, gazing at the illuminated sign that read "The Canvas of Voices." The night was calm, and the soft hum of the city surrounded him. As he reflected on his journey, memories of his struggles and triumphs played in his mind. He thought about the humiliation he had endured, the determination that had driven him forward, and the people who had supported him along the way. From the boy with big dreams and a small portfolio, to the man who now stood at the helm of a thriving gallery, Jake had come full circle. Laura joined him outside, handing him a cup of coffee. "Thinking about how far you've come?" she asked with a knowing smile. Jake nodded. "It's surreal sometimes. But this is everything I ever dreamed of. And more," Laura added. "You've done something incredible, Jake. And it's only the beginning." Jake smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace and purpose. As he stood there, the gallery bustling with life behind him, he knew that his journey wasn't just about proving his worth, it was about creating a legacy that would inspire and uplift others for generations to come. Years passed, and the Canvas of Voices grew into more than just a gallery, it became a cultural institution. Jake's vision had expanded beyond his wildest dreams, turning the gallery into a movement that revolutionized the art world. It wasn't just a place to showcase art, it became a symbol of hope, a sanctuary where stories were told, and lives were changed. Jake's expanding vision. Jake didn't stop at the gallery. Recognizing the global need for platforms that celebrated diversity, he started launching satellite galleries in other cities and countries. Each branch of the Canvas of Voices was uniquely tailored to represent the local culture and communities. From urban centers like New York and London to underrepresented regions in Africa, Asia, and South America, Jake ensured that no corner of the world was left untouched. The galleries hosted artist-in-residence programs, offering emerging talents the chance to live, work, and create without the burden of financial constraints. Scholarships were established to support young artists pursuing formal education in the arts. Jake worked tirelessly to raise funds for these initiatives, collaborating with organizations, philanthropists, and even governments. Despite his fame, Jake remained approachable and deeply involved in the gallery's day-to-day operations. He often spent hours in the gallery, speaking to visitors and mentoring artists. To him, every success story from the artists he supported was a reminder of why he had started this journey. The artists who found their voices. One of Jake's proudest moments was seeing artists who had once been dismissed rise to prominence. Sophia, a single mother and self-taught sculptor, had struggled to make ends meet until her work was featured in Jake's gallery. Her abstract sculptures, crafted from recycled materials, gained international acclaim. She later opened her own studio, employing other struggling artists in her community. Ali, a painter from a war-torn region, used his art to depict the horrors of conflict and the resilience of his people. Through Jake's mentorship, Ali's work was showcased globally, sparking conversations about peace and human rights. Maya, a young artist with disabilities, broke barriers with her innovative use of technology in art. Jake had discovered her work online and offered her a solo exhibition, which became a turning point in her life. These stories weren't just about art, they were about transformation, healing, and empowerment. Jake's gallery was no longer just a space, it was a ripple effect, spreading change far and wide. The redemption of Mr. Leonard. Meanwhile, Mr. Leonard continued his work at the gallery, now a transformed man. Over the years, he came to admire Jake not just for his talent but for his unwavering commitment to helping others. Leonard often reflected on his past arrogance and how it had blinded him to the beauty and value of the art he had dismissed. One evening, Leonard approached Jake during a quiet moment in the gallery. "Jake," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I've spent my life chasing prestige and profit. I see now how much I missed, how much I ignored. Working here has taught me humility and what art truly means." Jake placed a reassuring hand on Leonard's shoulder. "It's never too late to change, Leonard. What matters is what you do with what you've learned." Leonard became one of the gallery's most passionate advocates, using his experience to guide young artists and connect them with opportunities. His transformation was a testament to the power of forgiveness and growth. Jake's personal journey. Despite his professional success, Jake remained deeply rooted in his community and personal values. He continued to draw inspiration from his upbringing, often visiting his old neighborhood to give back. He funded art programs in local schools, ensuring that children who might not otherwise have access to the arts could discover their creative potential. Jake's relationship with Laura also deepened over the years. She became a key partner in his mission, using her storytelling skills to document the journeys of the artists the gallery supported. Together, they wrote a book titled The Canvas of Voices, Stories That Shape the World, which became a bestseller and inspired countless readers. As Jake's name grew in the art world, so did his impact. He was invited to speak at universities, international forums, and cultural summits, sharing his journey and advocating for the transformative power of art. Yet, through it all, Jake remained grounded, always reminding himself of where he had started and the struggles that had shaped him. The legacy takes root. Decades later, Jake stood outside the original Canvas of Voices, now an iconic landmark in the art world. The gallery had grown far beyond what he had once imagined, but its heart remained the same, a place where stories were told and voices were heard. A group of young artists approached him, excitedly sharing their dreams and ideas. Jake listened intently, offering encouragement and advice. Seeing their passion reminded him of his own journey and the fire that had driven him forward. As the sun set and the gallery's lights illuminated the street, Jake felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His story had come full circle, but his work was far from over. He knew that the legacy of the Canvas of Voices would continue long after him, carried forward by the artists and communities it had touched. Jake took a deep breath, gazing at the bustling gallery and the vibrant energy around it. His journey from rejection to triumph was more than just a personal victory, it was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of believing in oneself. And as he stood there, surrounded by the art and people he had fought so hard to uplift, Jake smiled.